too easy, right? Who could possibly say them wrong? Well, if you think so, try these. Are you sure you're saying them right? They call it learning, we say it's fun. Welcome to Fun Mandarin 玩中文。大家好, I'm Bryan. In the last episode, we had fun practicing 3 hacks to get the tones right. I'm sure you will agree that the tone changes in the third tones are the trickiest ones, right? But did you know that the tone changes in yi and bu are often overlooked? Since they keep their original tones in writing, it's easy to say them without thinking about the tone changes. However, if you're not familiar with their tone changes, it can be confusing in conversation. So, in this episode, we're going to practice the tone changes in yi and bu. As always, we'll look at some examples first, and then break down the rules afterward. Alright, first up, I'm gonna read out 4 sets of words with yi. You need to write down the tones of each character you hear. 第一，第一，唯一，唯一，一月，一月，一号，一号。Alright, the first one happens to mean the first in Mandarin too. 第一。What are the tones? If you're not sure, why not try the hummingbird hack I introduced in the last episode? So, 第一 would be 呵呵 呵呵. It sounds much clearer, doesn't it? 第 呵 is the fourth tone, and 一呵 is the first tone. Next, 唯一和 Wei is the second tone, followed by the first tone, yi. Number 3, 一月 yi is pronounced with the first tone, followed by yue, which is the fourth tone. And we have 一号 where yi is still the first tone, followed by the fourth tone, 号. Now, look at these words with yi. What do you notice? Apparently, yi doesn't change tones at all. It still stays in the first tone. If you're wondering, this is not a prank. These are great examples that show how yi remains in the first tone in certain conditions. When yi stands alone as a number, or is used as an ordinal number like in 一月 and 一号. Since 一月 means the first month of the year, which is January, and 一号 means number 1, or the first day of the month. Yi is used as an ordinal number in these words, so yi stays in the first tone. Also, when yi is at the end of a compound word like 唯一, it stays in the first tone and doesn't need any changes. Moving on, we're definitely going to see how yi changes tones with these examples. 一杯一杯一瓶一瓶一碗一碗一罐一罐 Let's check out the answers. The first one. 一杯 Did you spot that? E changes to the fourth tone, and 杯 is the first tone. Next. 一瓶 E is in the fourth tone, followed by the second tone, 平. Then 一碗呵呵 Which tone of yi did you hear? That's right. It's the fourth tone, followed by the third tone, 碗. The last one is 一罐呵呵 Listen again. 一罐 E has changed to the second tone, followed by the fourth tone, 罐. Let's take a closer look. For the first three words, we can easily see that E has changed to the fourth tone, 一. Do you notice any patterns here? When does E change to the fourth tone, 一? Brilliant! When E is followed by the first tone, as in 杯, the second tone, as in 瓶, or the third tone, as in 碗, E is pronounced as 一. E. What about E followed by the fourth tone, as in 罐? Spot on. E has changed from the first tone to the second tone, 一, as in 一罐呵呵 Have you also noticed that these examples here share one feature? That's right, they all have the number E followed by different measure words. If you're interested in seeing how these measure words work in context, check out this episode later. Back to tone changes. These rules seem so easy to understand, but how can we apply them naturally without a second thought? Here's a tip for you. Do you remember the first hack from the last episode? Which English word sounds similar to the fourth tone in Mandarin? No. I mean, you're right, it's no. When we say no angrily, we drop the pitch from high to low, just like we do when saying a word in Mandarin with the fourth tone. So, if I pronounce two fourth tones in a row, like 一罐, it might make me sound like a grumpy old man. Instead, let's change the tone to the second tone, like 一罐. Can you hear how the rhythm sounds much more pleasant now? Listen again. 一罐, 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 一罐. As you can see, when E encounters the fourth tone, we need to change it to the second tone, making it sound softer and smoother. Now, keep this tip in mind because it also applies to 不. Let's test it out with 4 sets of words that include 不. This time, I won't read them for you. Instead, you're going to say each pair out loud, and then we'll check the answers together. The first one. 呵呵 不吃 Next. 呵呵不能 Next. 呵呵不好 So far, what are the tones of 不? Yes, they should all be pronounced with the fourth tone, as each of them is followed by the first, second, and third tones. Last but not least, we have 呵呵不是 Look, if we say 不是 with the fourth tone, it sounds really abrupt. 不是不是 sounds much better. Just a quick note. Even though the fourth tone might sound a bit angry, it actually has nothing to do with anger. Also, remember, we only need to change the tone for 一 and 不 when they are paired with other fourth tone characters. For other words where characters are pronounced with the fourth tones in a row, such as 部队 and 便利店, just pronounce each character with the fourth tone as they are meant to be. Now, let's quickly summarize the rules again. When 一 and 不 are followed by a character with the fourth tone, they both change to the second tone. But when they're followed by a first, second, or third tone character, they're both in the fourth tone. These rules help you check your understanding and the accuracy of your pronunciation. But the key to mastering it is practicing with examples and speaking them out loud, not just memorizing the rules and doing written practice. So, join me in testing how well you say it correctly. Each question has different points based on its difficulty. You can add them up to see how well you've done in this challenge. Ready? 一块 一包 一条 不行 不要 不喝 一天一次 一大一小 不胖不瘦 不冷不热 我不想为了减肥就一直不吃不喝。不过我也不会一再的暴饮暴食。Now add up your points and see where you stand. If it's under 24, that just means there's room to grow. You can always rewatch the video and practice the parts that felt tricky. That's all for today. If you need more practice with tones, be sure to check out our first episode for the 3 best hacks to master Chinese tones. 如果你喜欢这集的内容，记得点赞、留言和分享。谢谢收看 Fun Mandarin 玩中文，我们下次见。